Okay, everyone, thanks for being here for the opening talk of Digital F. And today we're going to talk about road to 1 billion user. So we have Arthur, Amanda, and Mo with us. So just to begin, we have this QR code, which is a Telegram chat. And if you scan it, you will get access to the Telegram chat, and you can just ask question in it, and I will ask the question at the end to the audience, the question from the audience to the panel. So thank you everyone for being here. I will get to you. So Arthur, why I constructed this panel is like the three of you. You are in the Web3 space for a long time. You have a lot of experiences. Like Amanda, for example, since 2016, you worked as a CMO of Consensus, and now you are building Serotonin, who is one of the biggest marketing agency and product consulting agency in Web3. And you also wrote books. Mo, you are from Ledger, and you worked now as a head of brand development, but also you work on Quest, on gamification, and how to attract and keep users in Web3. And Arthur, you worked at Solanart with the Solana ecosystem. You're also an advisor for a lot of Web3 and crypto project, and now you're the lead of Superteam France, which is a French delegation in France. So the first question I wanted to ask you is like, because we are talking about road to 1 billion users, is what's the friction you encountered before to attract people to Web3, and then we go to how now Web3 is getting easier to get access to. So I will start with you, Amanda.
Sure. So I'll talk about the ways people usually get into Web3. And there are typically two superhighways. One is the centralized exchanges, and people come because they want to buy, usually Bitcoin, ETH, one of the major assets, and then they fall down the rabbit hole. They eventually get a self-sovereign wallet like MetaMask and potentially start getting into DeFi. The other route is perhaps a creator or a brand that they already knew and loved gets into the Web3 space, sometimes NFTs, which we saw a lot of last cycle, and they're already a member or a part of that community, that audience, and so that onboards them. And in that case, they usually get in a natively self-sovereign way with self-custodial assets right from the beginning. So those have been the two mechanisms for people getting in. And this past cycle, we've seen meme coins kind of look like NFTs in terms of the mechanism for people getting in, because the meme coins are small cap tokens that usually aren't listed on centralized exchanges. So those are the two mechanisms. The challenges are, I guess, usually it's only in the bull market that people come in through that first mechanism in droves. And so I think that's just like a cyclic pressure. And there are more people coming in with each new cycle in that first way through the big centralized exchanges. And those guys do a pretty hefty job of marketing to the unconverted to have their first Web3 experience. And then the challenge on the second side is, I think meme coins, I think the enthusiasm has dampened a bit. And I think the enthusiasm for NFTs by creators and by brands has dampened a bit. And so it's not completely clear to me yet what the next wave is going to be for bringing people in over that second superhighway. But I'm sure it'll emerge.
Thank you. Maybe Mo, you want to bounce on the fact that we were talking about how NFT was one of the first onboarding assets to people, because I know you used a lot of this thing to do Quest gamification at Ledger.
Sure. I mean, maybe to add a little bit of data to what Amanda was saying, today there are about 400 to 500 million crypto owners in the world. How many of them do you think self-custody their assets, meaning that they're self-sovereign? Anyone? Any idea? Percentage? Yeah, no idea. 10%? Yeah, not far off. It's 30 million, self-hosted wallets. How many of them you think self-custody their assets securely, meaning that they use a hardware wallet and not just a software wallet? 3, 2. A little bit more than that, 10 million. So to talk about the challenges, I think, one of the main challenges that we have today is that a lot of people are using or entering the crypto space with finance or generating value as the main utility. And that's why meme coins have seen such an incredible rise, in this cycle, so in the past few months, and that's why in 2021 NFTs were capturing a lot of attention. And the reality is that the space is for now mainly considered as a digital casino for a lot of people. However, there are a lot of different use cases that are emerging. From DeFi to now, there's a lot of talks around, RWAs, so the tokenization of real-world assets, to obviously, NFTs for creators is a real use case. We still see an incredible, ecosystem of generative artists and AI artists and crypto artists that are really leveraging on this technology in order to be able to create, creatively express themselves and, sell their art to different communities and also collectors that are really into the space. So I think, the challenge that we're currently facing is a question of how does this space end up bringing value to society more broadly and to brands and to collectors, consumers, and so on and so forth. And for us to be able to achieve this, we need to go out of the centralized exchange ecosystem, because at the end of the day, most of the people that are using centralized exchanges are just buying assets but not really using them in any way, unless they're investing in something and expecting a return. So the idea, for us at Ledger is to make sure that whoever gets into the space is able to navigate the space and interact with the technology in a safe way. Because the biggest challenge is obviously the fact that, if you get hacked or scammed, there's big chance that you're going to be a lot more wary when you interact with different apps, marketplaces, or any other interactions that you have on chain. And for us at Ledger, the main focus was on obviously developing products, hardware wallets that enable people to self-custody their assets securely. But on top of that, it's education. And just to double click on the point that you just mentioned around our different educational initiatives. We've obviously done, a variety of different things from, Ledger Academy, which is our educational hub that we grew from, around 80,000 users in 2020 to 1.4 million users today, creating a wide variety of different content, concepts from editorial to audiovisual, podcasts, etc. And that's just a small piece of the puzzle. I think ultimately it's about thinking about the overall onboarding experience and how people can learn about how they can use this technology and benefit from it outside of just generating returns, which is obviously a main reason why a lot of people are here, including myself. Let's not lie about it. But I think at the end of the day, there's a lot more to it than that, and it's only by interacting with the technology safely that you're going to be able to get a better idea of what this space can offer. So.
Thank you for this deep response. And to go back on what you said, we are talking about mass adoption, how to get people to get acquisition of users. And now I have a question for you, Arthur, because you were mentioning NFTs, which was the best vessels to get people on board on Web3. Now it's meme coins. A lot of people are going to Web3 with meme coins. And because we'll go into that deeper after, but because the ecosystem is evolving and now it's easier to access everything on-chain or off-chain. You are talking about the centralized exchange, but even decentralized exchange. And on Solana, for example, you have pump-down fund. We have mass acquisition. We have a lot of things around that. How do you think Solana is a chain for acquisition or not?
The idea is just, even if I represent Solana, the idea is just not talking about one chain, but the main focus, the main metrics is customer acquisition at the moment. And you see that for an exchange at the moment, it's kind of hard. If you're an historical member, just like a Binance or Coinbase, basically you already earn the trust of the different people. But even if you've got like the very best feature and you're launching right now, it's super hard just to get like all those customer, because the cost of acquisition is gonna be so high, and there's already such a high competition in terms of fees. So it's gonna be hard to go on those kind of businesses. I think that a lot of people seeing meme coins like something really stupid and everything, but I think it's also a great way for people just to have, they have fun, but they're also learning something also different. Just you get into crypto thanks to NFTs at the time, you get to NFTs thanks to meme coin right now. And I think it's just really interesting. For example, for the record, I used to be a professional BMX rider, but when I was a kid, everybody was playing football, and I wanted to do BMX, and my mom let me do BMX, which was weird for all my friends. But at the end of the day, I continued doing my weird things, and I was good at doing it. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's all those trends are really interesting in terms of market. Just to you get to know what is a meme coin, but after you get deep into the space, and the key, as Mo said, is education. Once you get in the hole and you starting learning from it, you get more educated. And the key at the moment is really, once the user are starting to be in the crypto space, is really to be able to teach them a lot about DeFi, about the other things, and then after people will choose their own way. But all those kind of things, the meme coin, the NFT, it's a cheap way to get new people getting into crypto, and then after you need to educate yourself. That's the main focus for me right now, I think.
And just to add on this, like if you look at like, also we're talking about meme coins, but I myself am not criticizing meme coins at all. I think they definitely have a very interesting use case. Just, after all, if you look at things, macroeconomically, if people decide to invest in meme coins, it means that there's something wrong with our economies around the world. And I think this is, the core use case of crypto, is people deciding to store their value in other assets than just the assets that were available to them, either because they were inaccessible or because they just don't store their value. And I think ultimately, if meme coins are a more cultural way for people to enter the space, but I think afterwards it's about like, okay, what's the next step? How can we actually leverage on the interest of the new generations in this new class of assets in order to get them to, obviously interact with it safely, but then discover more down the road around what they could do with it. And I'm personally fascinated by the number of people I meet today in very casual settings that are non-related to Web3, that are holding either crypto or meme coins. Even for the past couple of weeks, a number of like different dinners I was at, and very, people come up to me and be like, "Oh, I heard you were a ledger. I actually, started buying crypto like very recently, and I own this and this and that." Compared to like 3 years ago, I think there's a huge difference. So people are coming in; they're probably like still stuck at the exchange level, and the idea is just to be able to do the education and the onboarding from there on.
Yeah, to link that, you are both talking about adoption. So now it's like more acquisition, and how to educate people on what Web3, what's the code and everything. For example, personal example, my nickname in Web3 is Sorcier, which means wizard. It's because I made an article and I was explaining Web3 with like, we are the sorcerer, and the other people who are not in Web3 are muggles. We need to learn terms like mint, NFT swaps. You have schools and everything. You have big wizard called Satoshi Nakamoto or Vitalik Buterin. And people are learning this way, So I want to bounce on that, Amanda, because you wrote a book. And so you enter this kind of friction with Serotonin, with consensus and everything, and you wanted to explain to people what Web3, what's marketing is Web3, which is like very particular because it's not the same kind of onboarding and people. So maybe you can go more in depth into that.
Sure. So I wrote a book that came out last year called Web3 Marketing. It's available on Amazon or wherever you buy books. It was the first Web3 business book from a major publisher. And it's about the story of bringing Ethereum to market and a bunch of the projects that we've brought to market at Serotonin. We've probably done more individual Web3 product launches than anyone else on the planet. And so we have some pretty good data to do pattern matching with about what works. It's a fun story, and it's very accessible to a non-technical reader. I really wanted to speak to someone like myself when I first got into the space, to try to put tools in educator, marketer, storytellers, and founders toolkits to be able to start actually molding the substrate of this space and shaping it themselves. What are the chances that the small number of people that are actually active in this space today are the very best people? Just to be humble about ourselves for a minute, it's such a small subset of all of the professionals out there. What are the chances that we're actually the best? And so what we can do is to try to welcome the best others that aren't in the space yet, bring them in so that we get more shots on goal of building things that are really great, because that's better for everybody. I guess like the super core thing in Web3 marketing is there are two levers. There's motivation, so how much someone wants to do something, use a product, and then there's friction, how hard that product is going to be to use, how much you're going to need to deal with in order to get to that point of using it. And so those are the two levers. If people are super motivated to do something, then you can put some friction in their way, and they're going to get through it. But if someone isn't that motivated, then that friction is going to prevent them from getting through. So right now, most Web3 workflows, and we're starting to fix this with wallet abstraction, chain abstraction, account abstraction, and these things have their own problems and issues too, of course. But we're starting to fix a lot of that. But right now, a Web3 experience just does cause more friction. So you need to motivate people more in order to do it. Conversely, Web 2 experiences are very low friction, but you trade off that self-sovereignty. So I think some of this is changing, but I think that's a good kind of mental model for how to think about getting audiences over the obstacles that they need to get over in order to start using your product.
Thank you. And to bounce on the friction part, I know in 2022 people began more to be in Web3, and but they got wrecked. They got wrecked by FTX, they got wrecked by other exchanges, and they thought they were secure. And now we are getting more like a way to access to the market frictionless. We have Blink on Solana, we have Base and Coinbase, where the wallet you can just scan something. You have Ledger, even like the security password of Ledger. You can have a system, you will explain it better than me, but to unease yourself with it. To ease yourself, with it. So maybe more you want to bounce more on how the Web3 ecosystem evolved in like the past few years to get more people into Web3 and diminish this friction.
Yeah, definitely. I think, technology is evolving. If you look at the numbers, I think the most recent numbers, if you compared the growth of the internet to the growth of blockchain adoption, I think we're about in 1999 or 1998. So you think about what the internet looked like and what the entry points to the internet looked like at that time. There's still a long way to go, and I think it's not the first time that you probably heard that, but I think we still haven't seen the MySpaces and the Googles and the Apples of the space. Maybe some of them are there and they're building their technologies. I think Solana's done such an incredible job to just showcase how seamless it is to use DeFi and obviously interact with tokens. I think on the other side you have Base that's doing an incredible job with their embedded wallets and their smart wallets and just enabling people to be able to enter the space with an email login. On our end, Ledger's really focusing on being able to provide EOAs in the most secure way. And when I'm talking about EOAs, externally owned accounts, so it's not an abstracted account. It's a way for you to be totally self-sovereign, to be able to own your private keys. And that, historically hasn't been very easy because of the form factor of our device and because of the ecosystem that was built around the device. Ledger's been around for almost a decade. And initially it was just a device that was designed for you to be able to secure Bitcoin. There were no smart contracts, no interactions with the apps. It was just a way for you to set up your private keys, buy Bitcoin, send that Bitcoin to that address, and then that's it. And throughout that journey, a lot has emerged, and we've had to adapt to that in order to be able to make sure that we're building an ecosystem that is, first of all, secure, provides ownership, but is also easy to use. And the last milestone in our journey is the launch of Ledger Stacks, which is our newest device. So obviously, It's has a much wider screen, e-ink touch screen device that's designed by Tony Fadell, the father of the iPod and one of the co-creators of the iPhone. So in terms of like the user experience, whether it be on the hardware side, but also on the software side, the companion app, Ledger Live, everything has been revamped in order to be able to provide an experience that's a lot closer to Web 2 experience. And this is really key in kind of solving those friction points.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add one thing is I do believe that also the future of crypto is also building on existing app. So we talk about Blinks on Solana. That is basically you can get some crypto really easily just by adding like a little plugin on a tweet on LinkedIn or Instagram, which is brilliant. But I do believe that there is many other options. I think that. Until today, I didn't know that there is a wallet on Telegram, and that I didn't know, and I'm really happy to know about it. But there's 800 million active users on Telegram, which makes it really easy also to develop some tools directly on Telegram, and that is like a vertical that I love a lot, and that needs to be done because I'm sorry, I'm always saying the same thing, but it's just. User acquisition is the key. You can have like the best exchange, best whatever, gaming, whatever. If you don't have users, you don't. So the idea is just that with Telegram, for example, just an example, you can directly have all your users and you have your wallet. So we've seen that a lot with the Hamster
Combat, 100 million users, but mostly of them are fake.
Yeah, but it's just a great way. I think they were like all fake at the beginning, just to attract some people. But it's really interesting to lower your cost of customer acquisition. That is one point that is really important. And building on an existing app, it's fantastic. And it's not because I'm working for Solana that I'm saying that, but it was a good move. It is a good move. The Blink thing is kind of good. But yeah, we have to reduce friction. That is for sure. Make it easier. And then after this, we've got those two super guests, and that makes sense. It's just that we have to onboard brands also, and but in a good way, and it has to be easier. But they are the experts.
I'll actually hop on the Telegram bandwagon here. Ton Foundation is a client of ours, and I'm just a big Ton and Telegram proponent. I think people should check out some of Pavel's live interviews. He does an exceptional job, and it's actually very privacy preserving. Putting Web3 in the way of actual distribution is one of the most effective mechanisms we've seen, as opposed to facing the cold start problem of trying to get people excited about buying your Web3 thing from zero. And so wherever you can put a crypto thing, a Web3 thing, in the middle of that stream of actual distribution, that crushes. And so Telegram's going to have 1 billion users within this year. It's the 6th most downloaded app in the App Store. And the fact that they've actually built a self-sovereign wallet and the capabilities to actually build Web3 apps into Telegram, I think is going to absolutely change everything for Web3 adoption. So I think everybody's going to be building this. Everyone's going to be setting up stores inside of Telegram. I think some of the exchanges could even get pretty nervous because I think a lot of exchange activity could actually end up happening on Telegram.
And just to add one more thing, it's just we're seeing like the same thing on WhatsApp, not for crypto, but we're seeing more and more businesses just building on WhatsApp. Just to book, you've got the chatbot boosted by AI that are fantastic. I own like few hotels also on the side, and on all of my hotels, basically I have I build with like few devs like a super chatbot, and it's super useful. It's just super easy, and building on app, it's the future.
Well, it's interesting because the mental model here is WeChat. So WeChat in China, which is obviously government controlled, seamlessly blends value and reputation with chat. And so anyone that's interacted with that already has a mental model for what that product looks and feels like. And so the Libra Calibra project that Facebook did back when it was called Facebook in the States was an attempt to get crypto into WhatsApp. And so they were trying to build basically like a company-controlled cryptocurrency-powered version of what WeChat has, but they got shut down by the US government because the US government doesn't want to have to contend with something like that. But then that's exactly what Telegram's done. And they're domiciled in Dubai, so they don't have to deal with any of the same regulatory pressures. Very interesting.
And I wrote an article on this, on how like phone is your new home, in a way that people are getting too much friction building apps and everything. And the thing is, like, I really think to bounce on what you said, that what Web2 companies are doing as well is like we are moving from UGC, user-generated content, to BU/GC, brand as user-generated content, in a way that in Web2 they are building with Roblox. So they are using the power of Roblox. It's not a collaboration. Walmart, they just did like, not Walmart, IKEA, they did on Roblox, a way for people to work as IKEA sellers in Roblox, you know, so they did a whole campaign using the power of attraction of Roblox, but inside Roblox. They are doing the same, and Sandbox is always to see collaboration like this as well and everything. So, and Telegram, I do agree with you, with the three of you, that is really a powerful machine, and this is job during each ECC that the best application that are Telegram and Luma. And actually, this is true. You know, this is how we connect. This is how people are interacting. You can do on your Telegram /wallet. It's creating a wallet like that. You can send to people very freely. So maybe you want to bounce on that more on the ways that you use. Maybe Ledger is maybe looking at things to get frictionless with YouTube with two people. Or
I think all of these entry points, you know, are great, and they will lead to, you know, secure self-custody down the road. I think, you know, where Ledger is trying to do more of is by, you know, opening up the Ledger ecosystem to different brands in order to be able to collaborate and bring more of the, you know, mainstream culture into Web3. And that's, you know, what we've done throughout 2021, 2022. And also, you know, in the past year, you know, making sure that at the end of the day, whether it be by collaborating with brands such as like Fendi or Hublot, or, you know, most recently like Artifact, or making sure that at the end of the day, the brand presence in Web3 becomes more visible, not only for the Web3 ecosystem, but also for folks outside of the ecosystem to learn about, you know, what the space is about. And I think most of these collaborations have tapped into this. One of the things that we were fortunate to have at Ledger is a physical product that people can touch and see and feel. And at the end of the day, when we do collaborations like that and we feature them in, you know, different spaces outside of the Web3 space, it's also a way for us to bring more people in. And I think that, you know, what you see, for instance, you know, folks that we're pretty close with, you know, the LVMH group, how they've adopted Web3, and you think about, you know, blockchain technology and the overlap with, you know, the word of luxury is just so, you know, it's just a no-brainer. You know, it's about authenticity, it's about provenance, about scarcity, and these are things, you know, coming back to what you were saying, Amanda, like they're built into the distribution mechanisms of already established businesses. And you know, we've seen a lot of experiments with that, but it's just not going to stop anytime soon. You know, we see more of it, and I think, you know, the world of luxury, or in a more general sense, fashion is going to be, you know, deeply embedded with you know, NFC chips and blockchain technology. If you look at, I just received my, you know, most recent sneaker from Artifact, the Void, and it's so nice. You just, you know, you take your phone, you tap it on the NFC chip, you claim a digital collectible just by entering your email, and you're in, you know, you've just onboarded onto the space. So I think it's a question of having more of that and enabling these two worlds to collide together. Is what's going to be, you know, adding more traffic and interest to the space.
okay,
Those collaborations are just really good for the space, and I think it's more. I don't know if you agree, but I think it's more culture than a lot of acquisition in terms of new users. I think it's more just getting in another type of culture for collectible in a nicest way, because you've got all the, for sure, like we started with all the collectible with the Supreme and all that kind of stuff, where you've got all the secondary market, and which was really interesting. But I think that it's just in that space with what you're doing, and with Ledger and what you're doing too also, it's interesting because it just structure a market that was a bit wild. And I know it's kind of surprising to say that, but it just Web3 can also structure some topics, and for that it was really well done. And to track the owners of those sneakers and all that kind of thing it's really good. And but it's two part. I think it's this culture and this acquisition, and I think for the 1 billion, I think it's a mix of both.
I'll just throw something in about that, which is like across all of these brands getting into the space, the blockchain is the best CRM ever. Like if you think about, like, and this is for all of these brands getting into it. So if you think about like what makes Google valuable, what makes Facebook valuable, it's advertising. And why are they able to sell so many ads to advertisers? Well, because they have a bunch of personal information about people that they're able to use to extrapolate buying behavior. And that extrapolation is what they're selling to advertisers. When you're looking at the blockchain, you're not looking at any personal data. You're looking at pure buying behavior. So you don't have to extrapolate anything. That's actually the precise information that Google and Facebook have been going for this whole time to sell to advertisers. And so when our growth team at Serotonin does a presentation to a client about their audience composition, it's not about what their age is, what their gender is, where they live, what kinds of messages they like. It's literally about what they do on chain, what they buy, what they sell, where they do it. And that's like a marketer's dream. And so I think that there's an incentive for all of these companies, especially with their higher end items, to bring all of that CRM data out onto the blockchain.
And no, just to double click on that, it's actually it protects user data in some way, like your privacy as a user. But ultimately, what's very interesting is also once as a brand, you've sent a certain asset to an address, you can then engage with that address in so many different ways, especially with soulbound tokens. So you send a soulbound token, you just bought a bag from whatever brand, and you have a soulbound token in your wallet. Well, it's just a way for you to be engaging with that wallet, with airdrops, with access to exclusive events, to rewards down the road, and without ever needing any private information from that wallet, unless they opt into giving you that information.
And I think I don't know if there's builders or just people that are just interested by that, but I think that this huge CRM needs to be more used when you're launching either a project or a brand. I think it's just pure gold. I think like if we come back to the meme coins, basically those guys were really smart, and the guy that owns few NFT that were really hyped at the time, the guy that launched the token say, okay, those guys are kind of influential. They know a lot of people. They know everybody in the space. So you've got like a meme coin called Bonk, and Bonk basically just targeted all the people that owns NFTs on Solana and also on ETH, and say, okay, if you've got, let's say, SMB, it's called SMB, or you've got a lot of other, it doesn't really matter, but basically you can target really the people that's going to be influential and going to help you boost and help your project to be alive, hyped and everything. But it's going to be also the same thing for if you Fendi or if you Balenciaga. It doesn't really matter. Or if you just if all those assets, and you've got basically those soulbound token of when you buy your Chanel 55. I know my classic, and if you buy your Chanel bag, you know that then after on chain you see, okay, that woman loves Chanel, so she has a purchasing power and she's interested in that kind of asset, so we can target her with different marketing action. It makes a lot of sense. So, and the most important is that who's really buying it, and that's the key.
But to go back on what you said more about data protection and everything, I got in contact with Kering and Gucci, who contacted me because I did an article and I tracked all their activation. I tracked it on chain. I found the first NFT which was sold by Christie's. Christie's, which is owned by Artemis, which is the family office of Pinot. And the thing is, like, it was one of the first NFT built on, minted on Zora. I tracked it on chain. It was never sold. I found the last wallet. The last wallet had a soulbound token. So for those who don't know, soulbound token is a token you cannot move from your wallet, kind of. And I knew the guy who never sold it. I presume he was a guy. Went to a Degen Score event, who was the ortolan event. An ortolan is like a little bird with like you cannot eat anymore because it's protected and everything, but it's very famous in France. So I knew he was at ECC in 2022, linked to Zora and Artemis and Pinot. So I contacted him with XMTP to get in contact with him. This is the power of blockchain, but also the dangers of blockchain. And to go back on what you said about brands and everything, I think brands are, yes, mistaking the power of blockchain, but some are using them well. For example, I think what LVMH did with Tiffany & Co., they did luxury for luxury people. So they targeted the punks, who are kind of like a social value, one of the highest social value in the environment. And they did like necklaces for 30 ETH. So at the time, it was like a lot of money. And only a few of people owning the punks could mint the necklace from Tiffany, you know. But on the other hand, you have a lot of brands, and as Amanda or more, you encounter a lot of them who just want to go on the hype, you know. They want the blockchain to be a Trojan horse for acquisition, but they don't understand the value, the cultural, societal aspect of blockchain. And I think this is changing very well. And to bounce on the end of the panel, and some of the question, in 2022, we said gaming is there, and like all the gaming project on Web3 will be the new way to do acquisition. But the thing is, like, they did tokens, they did NFT, but they had no users, you know? We are talking about brands, but do you think there is other, like, do you see other kind of topics or projects, or people are asking about ticketing, NFT events, for example? This event, we did it for free, for people to be on board to blockchain. We minted the manifesto on Zora for free and everything. Do you think you see other aspects of blockchain being bigger and bigger and bigger for acquisition?
Yeah, so I think RWAs are going to be interesting for that, but I actually don't want to dwell on it. I just want to defend that I think on-chain games are going to be a really big deal. So there are two kind of mental models around how games get created. There's kind of an American one where games get generated by big studios and they're really expensive. And then there's a more kind of Asian, sort of like Chinese minted style of game development, which is more mobile focused and which is very focused on just getting simple hooks and getting people using. And I think that a lot of people in the West, when they thought about like Web3 gaming, thought about the American style of gaming, adopting Web3, which has not happened. But if you look in Asia, you see the kind of Chinese model of mobile games with simple hooks really getting adopted. I just spent a while in the Philippines. I was at a gaming conference hosted by YGG at the second largest city in the Philippines, Cebu. And there were thousands of students in the audience. And they were rapidly learning how to be Discord mods and complete quests. And Axie Infinity is going strong, as are a number of other games. And I heard stories about people climbing trees to get better signal in order to be able to play Axie and claim rewards. And if climbing a tree to access your product isn't product market fit, I don't know what is. I would love for every product we launch to have people climbing trees. And so I think especially in these emerging markets with very young, super smart, mobile-first populations, we're going to just see a huge profusion of participation in online gaming and questing.
I think it's what we call, like, it's called the hyper casual. The hyper casual is basically just mobile game, a small mobile game, not AAA games. I think it's the most important. I think we will see more and more stuff. For example, I invested in a mobile app called Octo, and basically Octo is doing a lot of mobile game using IPs of NFTs, because NFTs don't generally know how to handle a game that they promise during the mint. So it was a cheap solution for them. Say, okay, I'm going to see Bored Ape and say, okay, for 25 grand, which is cheap, I'm building you a mini game on our hub, and that things it will be built on Web3. You can own the token of the project and everything. Really cheap, really fast. 1 month to be developed, and I think the future is more on that. The AAA games are not. I don't see at the moment like the one that's going to be really efficient. We've got one that has been building for 3 years called Aurori. It's built on Solana, but what needs also to be done and to be known is just that AAA games takes a long time to be done, and we are in a very, very new market. And for example, you know, like people promising that in 6 months we will have a dope game. It's not possible, and people need to be more patient. And the problem is also, and this is why I think you're right for the hyper casual. It's just people that at the moment people don't have enough fun playing to video game. They just focus on the token. And the way I think video games will be successful is when people will have fun playing with it, and it will not be only based on the token. And because a AAA game cannot be developed in a nice way, because you're launching your token, because it will be basically your raise at the beginning, and then after you will have like 3, 4, 5 years in order to have a proper AAA games, and during this time nothing will really happen. Nothing will happen that much, you know. So basically your token will fall down, and people will leave because they're just focusing on the token. And we need to have like a game that has a proper experience where everybody's happy just playing with it, and the token will come also along the way. So it's a hard equation for me, but yeah, hyper casual is where I will go for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest problem with the to earn model, like play to earn, move to earn, do whatever to earn. Climb to earn. You've seen you've seen all of these to earn models work really well in bull markets, because to your point, the motivation is high, the value of the token is high, but then when the token value plummets, there's not a lot of motivation, a lot of friction to be able to earn. So I definitely think the question wasn't necessarily related to gaming, but that gaming topic is really interesting, and I do agree that the more casual, the more mobile friendly games will be, and the more fun they are, the higher the adoption. But I think if we're talking about the short to mid-term, mostly adoption will come through the institutions that are getting into the space, because you look at the number of ETFs that are being launched, you look at the interest in RWAs, lots of folks tokenizing bonds, and S&P 500 companies, probably will follow afterwards, and being able to sell this across borders and own it in your digital asset portfolio without being able without having to actually go outside of the ecosystem is just going to bring a lot of value in. And I think whereas like 2021 was driven by retail adoption due to the macroeconomic environment back then, and stimulus checks, and the injection of capital in the economy, and how that was then used by individuals to invest in the crypto space, I think probably this time around the script might be flipped, and it's the injection of capital from the institutions that will be bringing more people in, and finance as the main use case will probably still remain until we see an incredible application that just gains more adoption. Maybe it's going to be Telegram, maybe it's going to be something else, but I definitely do think that in the short to mid-term, most of the adoption will come thanks to institutions investing in the space, because they do see the value in it. So yeah,
I try to mix all the question, all you said. So the thing is like for gaming, we want to mass adoption, but the people who are from Web3 are not probably like some are not gamers, and they want to do like a token who go high and everything. But on the other end, you have like Web2 company like Ubisoft, who tried multiple times to implement Web3, and just like frictionless. They use Tezos to do Quartz, and it was like seamless for people. People didn't like it, and there is like a lot of people in Web2 who don't like Web3. So this is also a barrier. And to bounce on the Super app and Telegram and everything, because I have questions like this as well, I do think that what you said is like, we are going toward the future where Super app are here, but regulation is like a blockage, like it's a blocked, it's a blockage. Yeah, it's a blockage. And but also another thing, to go back on what you said about real world assets or finance coming into the space. I think we are entering the battle between what's culture and what's non-culture for people, and crypto is beginning to be in this gray area, where crypto is beginning to be the culture even for non-Web3 people. For example, I can give you an example. Of course. Pudgy Penguins. So Pudgy Penguins is like a big NFT collection. For New Year's, I received multiple friends' messages with like their little gift from Pudgy Penguins. So it's beginning to be used by more Web2 people. But also Van Eck, like the asset management group, they just changed their PFP to a Pudgy Penguins. And the thing is, like, I think the world is divided into 3 categories, let's say. It's my own example. But I think, like, you had people who are born before 85, let's say, who are not used to technologies and everything. They use their phone and everything, but not as we are using here in Web3. Then you have people in between, and there is a mix. I did law and finance. Some of our friends are not on Twitter, Instagram, and everything. They don't care. But some, like me or you, more like we are full in Web3 and everything. But after the new generation, like they all are on their phone. And I think the discussion is here. You know, you have new people who are beginning to be 24, 25, who are beginning to have assets, who want to put their asset and to put their asset to work. And now it's not like banking and everything. It's like looking at crypto. And the investment and banking system is seeing that. He's seeing this new kind of wave coming on, and I think the mass adoption is coming into how we can do the discussion between these two kind of like environment. And I'm saying it's not a question of age, but a question of usage. And I think to take globally what you said is like how we can avoid friction, how we can involve education. And I think it's by books, by quests, by doing what Solana, for example, with Superteam France. Superteam is like the French delegation. So of Solana in France to build, because every continent is different. We're talking about Asia, not the same at all as working in Europe, in regulation-wise or with market-wise and everything. So I think it's very interesting to have like Ledger working worldwide, to have you, Amanda, working mostly in the US, but also...
No, extremely global.
Extremely
Europe,
global, sorry.
Europe,
You have
US,
this-
Middle
okay.
East, Asia.
Okay, so global, sorry. And after Solana, who is coming into, like, for example, France to develop the ecosystem. And I think we are beginning to be on time. If you want a last word, I don't know. Or I can finish on that.
I think just maybe the future might be hybrid. I think for institutional, I think that wants to be in Web3, you don't have to do a U-turn straight away. I think that starting with adding a bit of Web3, I'll give you an example, a concrete example for for gaming. Gaming for me is the best way in order to have like a successful game in in Web3. It's to start as a Web 2 and adding a Web3 layer for your hardcore player. Basically, your hardcore player will be the let's say the 10% that's going to play to all the different levels. And basically, for those hardcore players, the Web3 will add a strat where they can have like super special perks, and they are willing to do the action to create their wallet and everything because they want to do their mission till the end. And I think it is for gaming, but it could be pretty much the same for everybody, even for finance and everything. Just add a bit of Web3, and little by little you get the culture. The culture will be adopted. But if I can close one thing, it's just super app, I think, is the next 1 billion user. This is where the cheapest and the easiest way to acquire them.
I'll add 2 more things. One is stablecoins, which is onboarding a huge amount of people, basically a transport layer for the US dollar. And a lot of people want to be using the US dollar. So that's another kind of onboarding. And then I think that a big distribution moment for crypto is going to be once AI can really use crypto rails. I think the UX of the blockchain really isn't meant for people. I think it's meant for AIs. And once you have people using AI agents to do financial actions on their behalf, those entities will have a lot easier of a time using the blockchain, and we'll wrap it all up into a really clean UX for humans. And I think once that's accessible, we just immediately solve the blockchain UX problem by just totally abstracting humans out of the equation. And I think that's going to be explosive.
Yeah, I think stablecoins are definitely, an incredible vector for adoption. I'm going to give quite a classical answer: Bitcoin. I think, you look at the world and, just coming back to that macroeconomic state of the world, like you have obviously a lot of countries that are still want to use the dollar, but you have incredible de-dollarization that's happening across the world as well. And, the space has, one of the promises, the initial promises of the space was to bank the unbanked, but I think we've been unbanking the banked for a very long time. I think, you look at the developing world and the interest in Bitcoin adoption. Some countries that have been affected economically due to decisions that haven't necessarily been made by their governments or their countries, that have been happening elsewhere, that are starting to look at the space much more closely. And I think digital assets are becoming something that is being discussed on a political level and a global level more than ever before. And once government or a country starts using digital assets, then the whole population follows, and I think we'll see more of that. We're talking about the Middle East, but I think Asia as well. I think Eastern Europe. I think all of these are regions in the world that are investing heavily in Bitcoin, even if some of these investments aren't necessarily as public. And we'll see more of that. And I think Bitcoin is still the best use case of the space. Despite everything else that we've been talking about today.
You can drop the mic now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Astra. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Mo, for coming. Thank you, everyone.